Yeah, thank you very much. Got lots of notes. So, I mean, my main aim here is to try and look at what is produced. I mean, what has actually happened and what is produced in the project and for the future, and what is your contribution as an artist in this project. So just take many questions. But one of the things you mentioned was that you are under the radar of power, you said. But you also talked about how you have, been part of a process that accumulates knowledge, and you are part of a process where you can say that you have actually changed a master plan for an area. And you also talked about how this, I don't know, let's call it art space you work within kind of gives you, and yeah, that's what you said when you said you were under the radar, that because you're an artist, you can just walk around and nobody really takes too much care about or considering too much what you're doing. But can you talk about that, how, because in a way, I guess your aim has always been to change something. And to do that, you need some kind of power. But you kind of, it sounds like you're trying to take this word power out and then put something else in that then makes the change. Does that make sense? I mean, what is it that you as an artist in this project specifically have contributed with?
Well, that's the tricky thing is that the word for that is trust. The trust between me and the people. If I listen properly, they are prepared to negotiate with each other. So I had a very special, I became a Habibi. The Habibi means friend in Arabic. And I obtained this role as a Habibi, which means that they trusted that if I said, "You're fucking wrong, what are you talking about?" this was still okay. But it took a long time of listening. So this is the combination of the expectations to the artist and the gardener's logic to wait and to listen long time enough. And I think it's a strategy that has to do with waiting and listening.
So you're kind of saying that you are going another way around by using trust or building trust.
Mm-hmm. Or what you call love in your projects, you call it.
Yeah, but maybe I'm not sure if it's the same strategy, but we can talk about that. That you're using trust in a way to change things and not using power. Is that what you're saying? That it's a different way of changing something?
But maybe it's another factor involved here. The politicians get really scared when a lot of people are gathered in one place and they are really open, candid about how disappointed they are in things. Then when they start to ask for changes, and as this space was a place where those conflicts who had been shut down appeared within this zone of trust, then they gave it importance. They started to listen, but that was maybe not my work. That's the mechanism of politicians. Anyway.
And what happened then in that process? Because you said that in the beginning you were not a threat, but then you became something else. Now they're inviting you to do more, as I understand it, and they have actually said that now it's their responsibility to continue your work,
kind of, yeah.
So how? I mean, what has the relationship become? What is the relationship now to the planners and the developers also, which are on the other side of the table?
The developers and most of the bosses of the municipality are sick and tired of me. They would do anything to make me not come and do anything there.
Okay.
And this is the reason for this is the same as Johan. Where are you, Johan? That we spoke about last night about what happens when you don't follow the protocol of a municipality, but go directly and start drinking beer with the politicians to explain them the ethical side of this and blah, blah, whatever it is we do as artists. So then they feel out of control. But the planners have another opinion. They feel that they have names for the people who they are working for. So they now know the people who live in the area, and therefore they can also continue to collaborate with them. So in this way, they are happy to take over the model. Mm-hmm. So that this is what they actually do. They walk and talk, and the pink room is still there. Looks shit, but they use it.
Then I would like to talk about this, the way you ask, because the methodology, as I understand it from the beginning, was to go out and use video, filming people and ask questions. And you're a very good journalist. I mean, you're really good at, I think these films shows how profound you can actually get someone to answer something that is really, really interesting. It's not just snapshots you can see on television on a daily basis that doesn't really make sense, but this actually makes sense. I'm really intrigued by what you got out of these people. So can you talk about this methodology and how is that connected to you being an artist?
Maybe the connection is, and this is just shooting from the hip, but maybe the connection is to listen for what they're not saying and then asking for that. To sort of go in the non-pronounced and to take it out and see what happens. There are many, the woman here, she's the mild version of the fear of the stranger in this area. There were some really harsh versions of the same. And how to give that equal right to exist, to coexist with something else for a while. And then also the way to ask when somebody else listens so that the other party can see something else. So this is maybe something that interests me.
But why video? Why go to their homes?
Because as Dorte Jørgensen, the philosopher here in Denmark, has said, and I've said in all of my public performances, I think, I love this sentence, democracy is like a muscle. It needs to be trained through seeing and hearing each other. And it is this act of seeing and listening to each other that makes us coexist in the same space. And so this is important for me to do.
And can you talk about time? To me also, time is like paint, and without paint you can't really make a painting.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how your relationship is to time in these projects?
Well, I've had absurd time frames, 11 years, 4 years. It's really long time, but I think that something happens when it starts growing. And then I get intrigued if it's possible to do something because there is time. So I never set an initial time frame for a work because something might happen. So I like to be surprised by just being there, hanging out for a while.
I wonder if we might just check that perhaps there's a question or a comment in the audience that.
How I communicate to these people. Well, there were 11,000 people living in these two areas. So of course communication had to be done by visual ways. And I have this very splendid photo taken by my daughter when she was 3 years old. And I look really nice and really not dangerous at all. And then I put that on the poster saying, can you give me half an hour of your time? Because they are going to remake your city and I'd like to know what you think about that. And I wouldn't say that they started calling a lot of people. So after that it was somebody forced somebody to come, and that person had a good experience, and then it was mouth to mouth, basically.
And then maybe you can talk about this knowledge production, that there's some knowledge produced here, and some of that knowledge is produced within the citizens, some is produced within you, and some is produced in the municipality, just to take these three parties. And one of the concerns I have in my project is, how do we, as a project, short-term project, medium-term project. Transfer this knowledge production onto the ones who have to stay there in the municipality and plan on and do other projects.
So this is why I loved collaborating with Peter and Marie-Catherine, because Marie, can you not stand up so we can see? This is the basic, collaborator I have had through the times, Marie-Catherine. You made models, we made all the time, we translated everything to photos, to many different layers. So it was always represented in different ways, in film, in objects, so that it would transperse like these burdocks going out to stay the image in the head of people.
But that's, I mean, for that to work, the municipality people would then have to come down and investigate those materials.
Yeah, they didn't in the start, they did in the third phase of Parklek. That was a collaboration between me and the planning department of Sundbyberg. This is why it's called Parliament, because it was a specific division of roles. They actually moved a project secretariat into the art project for a while. So they were there to learn.
Going to take one more question from the floor.
Yeah, I would like to follow up on that, because how do you make these processes sustainable? I mean, you find a solution now, people are happy maybe, and they are take actively part in the life in the area. But I mean, it will freeze if you don't have ways of continuing this process. I mean, like, it will need refurbishing, it will need new inhabitants will come with new needs and so on. How do you make this process sustainable? Do you think about this?
A lot, and I don't think that it should be sustainable. I think one of the things that are important in public administration is that power shifts. If everything would be like I and this group of people had decided, it would freeze. So I think, Peter, you gave me the most important advice, always never to leave a final version of the project, only to point at the possibility of several different ways of developing. So we never gave a very final one, because then the conversation would stop. But now the conversation can go on because it's not resolved in detail. Thank you.
I wonder if we're a little bit ahead of our schedule, a little bit of overtime. So I wonder if I could invite everybody to thank both Kerstin Bergendal and Kenneth Balfelt